It's crazy that we not only got a video game based on a somewhat obscure comic book series, but it's even crazier that we got a sequel just under 5 years later. After finishing The Darkness, Starbreeze weren't in a position where they wanted to work on a sequel, and even though the game was a commercial success, it wasn't a big hit. So 2K were in no rush to fund one, especially when a few months later in 2007, they would publish a much more successful first-person shooter, leading to them wanting to invest more in that series. Starbreeze would instead work on The Syndicate, which released in 2012. So for a while it was unclear if a sequel would happen, but speaking of that successful FPS, there was a silver lining. BioShock released in August 2007 for Xbox 360 and PC, developed by Irrational Games. However, the game wouldn't release on the PlayStation 3 until a year later in October 2008, for as Ken Levine put it, corporate reasons. This version was done by Digital Extremes, who also developed Dark Sector earlier that year. 2K saw an opportunity with Digital Extremes and approached them about doing a follow-up to The Darkness, to which they happily agreed, as they wanted to create a shooter with a focus on narrative, which fit The Darkness. However, things wouldn't go smoothly for the sequel. In fact, BioShock 2 is what nearly killed The Darkness 2 from happening. In an interview with The Darkness 2's director, Sheldon Carter, he said that BioShock 2 was 2K's biggest project yet, and it was all hands on deck to get the game out, meaning that 2K pulled as much resources from other projects as possible to get BioShock 2 done. This meant they had Digital Extremes develop the multiplayer for the game, leaving them with less resources for The Darkness 2. The project was close to being cancelled, but 2K saw how passionate the development team was about the game and allowed them to press forward. The game was announced in May 2011 and released later in February 2012. And whilst the game got good reviews, it sold horribly. Official numbers haven't been released, so don't take this as confirmation, but according to some sources, it sold less than 500,000 units. This could have been due to other releases around the same time, or just the lack of marketing, leading to the game flying under the radar. It seems there was plans for downloadable content, but that was cancelled. There's a downloadable content part of the main menu, but DLC was never released for the game. It seems likely that 2K were unhappy with the sales numbers and pulled support from the game, which is probably why we haven't seen anything from this series since. However, whilst that is disappointing, I think The Darkness 2 by itself has a lot of values that are very endearing, like its predecessor, so join me as we take a look through the follow-up to one of the most interesting FPS games. My biggest criticism of the first game was the lackluster shooting mechanics where enemies barely reacted to your shots, and due to the lack of feedback from guns, it made weapons feel weak and unsatisfying to use. Well, this has been addressed in the second game. Guns now have much better feedback, there's more recoil in the animations of the guns, making them feel more powerful, the enemies have better flinch and animations when shot, and there's a lot more blood. All of this leads to the shooting being much more satisfying to take part in. Also, switching weapons is more convenient in this game. You can carry 2 small weapons and 1 big weapon, and you can dual wield. In the first game you had to scroll through the D-pad to get the weapon you wanted. You could hold more weapons in the first game, but the weapons in The Darkness 2 serve more unique purposes. One criticism I have for keyboard and mouse controls is the button switching when you dual wield. So for example, when holding a pistol by itself in your right hand, left mouse fires the gun. Nothing too odd, right? However, when you dual wield, left mouse now fires the gun in your left hand, and right mouse fires the gun in your right hand. And that can be confusing at first. You can't fix this in the options menu either. Also, even though the PC version of this game runs well, it doesn't allow you to turn off motion blur for some reason, and there's no mods to fix that. But hey, at least this game has a PC version. Back to the game, the Darkness powers have changed a lot since the first game. In the Darkness, you had different abilities you could switch through to use on enemies. In the Darkness 2, you no longer have these abilities, and you instead take full control of the demon arms in a mechanic the developers referred to as quad wielding. Creep in Dark is completely absent, but the other abilities were implemented in other ways. Throughout development, the arms were referred to as grabby and slashy for their gameplay purposes. The left arm is able to grab weapons and ammo from a distance, as well as weakened enemies and objects in the environment, to either act as a shield or jack you to throw at enemies. The right arm acts as a melee mechanic where it slashes at enemies and you control the direction of the slash using the mouse or analog stick. You have two powers with gun channeling, which temporarily channels the darkness powers into your guns, which makes the guns auto-aim to enemies and basically shoot through walls, and it acts as a replacement for the darkness guns from the first game. There's also these flies which stun a group of enemies. Instead of Black Hole being something you can activate at any time, it's now a random drop from enemies, so it's still overpowered, but you can't constantly rely on it to win fights. It is satisfying when you get lucky though. When grabbing a weakened enemy, you have 4 options on how to kill him. You can either kill him to get health back, kill him to get ammo, kill him to recharge your powers, or you can get a darkness shield which you can also use as a throwable weapon. It disappears once you throw it though. This makes for more interesting decision making during gunfights, as you'll have to decide in the moment what resources are the most useful to you and what you need. It can lead to some somewhat checkmate-like situations where you may kill an enemy to get more health, but what you really needed was ammo, or you might kill to get ammo, but what you really needed was to refill your darkness powers, because that is what was going to win you the encounter. I like the idea of this mechanic because whilst you always do have some offensive options in the game, you can put yourself in a really bad spot if you don't plan ahead. Plus the kill animations are pretty awesome, and you're invincible during them, so there is an advantage game. Just like the first game, you want to stay in the dark and shoot out the lights, but it works differently. In the first game, when in light, you can still use your darkness powers, but they diminish faster. In the Darkness 2, the second you stand in the light, you cannot use the darkness at all, and the game blinds you with light whilst Mike Patton screams at you to get out of it.
Run! Get away from the light!
Later on, enemies that produce light show up and can cause serious trouble if you don't take them out quickly. This makes sense for balancing, but I don't think the game needed to go this extreme with the lighting effects. It's annoying. Stronger enemies show up who need more firepower to be put down, so there is a bit of enemy variety too, but I think the game could have had more unique enemy types to spice up gameplay, because there's already decision making with the mechanics, so what if you combine that with a mixed enemy sandbox? I think that would elevate the gameplay to even greater heights. There are attempts at this with shield enemies and enemies that can grab your guns out of your hands, but I'm thinking more of like Doom and Quake, where each enemy serves a unique role in the sandbox. You can't summon Darklings anymore, instead you have one that follows you and he can be thrown at enemies. All of these changes make for a fairly engaging combat system, especially on the highest difficulty because Jackie is extremely powerful, but he takes a lot of damage. Now, replenishing your health is fairly easy to do, but you're always close to death in this game, which makes it challenging without being unfair. You're almost just a hair away from dying, but you have many options to prevent that. There's meaningful decision making in the midst of combat, you're encouraged to be aggressive while still planning your approach, and the mechanics as a whole are very satisfying to use. It's also much more dynamic than the first game with its encounters, since the player can massively succeed or fail due to the improvisation, and it means fights have a constant push and pull, where you might be in a winning position at one moment and then a losing position the next, and managing your powers, ammo, and weapon types comes in handy since saving for future encounters is rewarded. I wish the game went further with this and had a proper scoring system, but either way it's a step up from the first game. However, a complaint I have is the progression system. There's a skill tree in the game where you unlock moves or upgrade abilities. Some examples being when you slam an enemy into the ground, it causes an explosion. You can obtain the darkness armor from the comics. You can add an action reload mechanic to the shotgun, where if you press the aim button right after a shot, it speeds up the firing rate. You can make objects explode upon impact, and more. The problem I have is this arbitrarily locks mechanics behind this system for no good reason. A lot of games add skill trees or systems like this to give a false sense of progression, but I really don't see the point since I'm going to unlock all of the moves eventually. It's not like an RPG where I can make different builds or playstyles depending on my upgrade options, so all this does is provide a lazy progression system where I have to play the game a bunch before I get access to the cool stuff. My playstyle isn't going to change at all, it's just going to make what I'm doing already more effective. What does this add to the game? In a game like this, the progression should come from the player getting better with the mechanics and gameplay. It shouldn't be a case of, oh, I'm better at the game because I now have more OP moves. If you want the player to obtain new powers and gameplay mechanics as they progress, that's awesome. Maybe encourage exploration so they find these upgrades by exploring the level. But attaching them to a skill tree is a lazy way to do it. Kill 5 more enemies to get 100 XP and unlock this section of the skill tree. The problem I have too is that the game gives more XP for very systematic kills. Performing executions gives the most points, for example. So in that case, why wouldn't I just spam executions on every enemy to level myself up and make the game easier? What this means is that for the early game or a first time playthrough of The Darkness 2, you're encouraged to just spam executions, both because they give you resources back, but also because it's the best way to make Jackie more effective, as opposed to actually getting good with the mechanics. There is New Game Plus where you get to carry over all your upgrades, so the incentive for New Game Plus is, oh, now I get to play the actual game. If you're going to add a skill tree, have it make meaningful differences to the player's experience. This would also make for better replay value, since they would try out different playstyles with the upgrades. Upgrade systems should incentivize different playstyles, not lock the full experience of the game behind a grind. Aside from that though, The Darkness 2's combat is a big step up from the first game and is a joy to take part in. The unfortunate part of The Darkness 2 is that it pretty much completely abandons the non-linear structure of the first game. Now you progress through linear levels, and when you finish it, you head back to Jackie's penthouse, where you can interact and talk to a few characters, but it's a far cry from the first game. Also, instead of the game switching to an outside perspective during these interactions, it's all done in first person, meaning you don't get to see Jackie as much in this game. This wasn't exactly what Digital Extremes wanted to do. Sheldon Carter said they had plans to do side missions like the first game and wanted to expand on that structure, but to do so would have doubled the game's budget, and it was already close to being cancelled. So instead they went with a standard FPS level structure and focused on making the combat stand out, which it did. What this means though is that The Darkness 2 is a less unique game from the first, structure-wise. The first game may not have had great combat, but the world and character interaction and exploration turned it into one of the most memorable first-person shooter games ever made. It sucks that it's gone, but I empathize with the developers and I understand why they went in the direction they did. And I think it benefited the game overall. That being said though, I still have some criticisms with this structure. There's a lot more cutscenes in this game. Some can be skipped, some can't. And there are some sections where you just walk around during a story segment, or as I like to call them, walkie-talkie segments. I would be fine with these if they could be skipped because they hurt replay value. Let's say I want to replay a level just to shoot enemies. I'm going to have constant interruptions. It's why I'm not the biggest fan of these sections in games, because sure, they might work fine on a first-time playthrough. I would argue they don't, but for the sake of argument. But let's say I'm playing the game a second time, or a third time, or a 10th time. I don't want sections that waste my time before I get to the action. Like I talked about in my DMC Devil May Cry video, more developers should understand this concept of looping level design. Every second in the game stretches out into infinity because it's going to be played an infinite number of times. If you're going to include these sections, make them skippable. And this hurts even more because there's no other modes where you can take advantage of the gameplay mechanics. And I don't know why. In a game with a heavy emphasis on combat, why not have modes dedicated to it? Why not have an arcade mode where you play through the levels to get high scores or best times? Why not have a horde mode where the player tries to survive for as long as they can? You could even have leaderboards. There's maps from the single player and multiplayer that could be used for stuff like this, so you already have assets to work with. And it's a shame too, because I enjoy the combat in the Darkness 2, but I'm very limited in terms of my interaction with it, and I think this could have easily been fixed with extra content and bonus modes. Overall, whilst the Darkness 2 has a pretty good combat system, the structure of the game and its lack of extra content really stops it from reaching its full potential. Instead of a competitive multiplayer like the first, the Darkness 2 has a co-op campaign with 4 different characters that all have different abilities. The campaign actually takes place during the main story, and there is some crossover, but don't expect much. The first character is Inagami, voiced by Brian Tochi, aka Leonardo from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Death whistles. The hound comes.
Inagami uses a sword, which, similar to the demon arms, can be slashed in any direction. He can jab with it and wield a small gun. He can also send out flies to stun enemies. Soshana is voiced by Joanna Parker, who, despite doing next to no voice acting work, surprisingly does a good job with the character.
So, I was wondering, that gun of yours, where did you dig the thing up?
It's been in my family for over 75 years. Everyone who carries it carries the legacy of hunting and destroying evil wherever it hides in the world. No one who has carried it has ever lived to see their 30th birthday.
Maybe you should, you should stop carrying it then. There's gotta be better weapons.
But there is no better legacy.
That's crazy! I mean, is everyone who touches Dark Essence crazy?
She has a shotgun that has unlimited ammo and can be charged to one-hit kill enemies. She also has the gun channeling move. J.P. Drummond is voiced by the legend himself, Dave Fennoy, who manages to make this old man sound badass, even when he's dying.
Drag me to hell if you want, but I'm gonna be kicking all the way.
He has a staff which can launch enemies up into the air and summon black holes. It's also funny to me that Dave Fennoy happened to be in 2 comic book video games that released around the same time. Jimmy Wilson is voiced by David Shaughnessy, who I always remember as being Vigil from the first Mass Effect.
I canna die! I've never seen Shoshana's diddies!
He has an axe that he can throw at enemies and call back and can summon a Darkling. The problem I have with this mode is that it feels very slapped together. All of the characters are just pieces of Jackie with his mechanics chopped up and given to the characters, which makes sense story-wise since he gave them the Darkness powers, but gameplay-wise it's very limited. So instead of playing as a character with a unique moveset, you're just playing as a gimped Jackie. The shooting is solid of course, but it's not fun to be playing as a character who only has one gimmick to them. In co-op it's probably more fun to work together, but I think it would have been more interesting if each character had unique moves or abilities specific to them. The levels are all original, thankfully, which is nice. Instead of just taking areas from the campaign and making them co-op, Digital Extremes went and made new levels. Unfortunately, nobody is playing the Darkness 2, so good luck playing this mode the way it's intended. You can play solo, but the levels are balanced for 4 players, and it's not much fun to play a whole campaign as a character with such limited moves. I don't know if Digital Extremes wanted to do more of the multiplayer but didn't have the resources or time, or if 2K forced them to make a co-op campaign and take resources away from the single player, but either way, I wouldn't try this mode unless you have friends to play with. One of the main attractions for Digital Extremes working on the Darkness 2 was its narrative. Paul Jenkins, who wrote parts of the comic and the first game, returned in an even greater role, being much more involved with the development team. Right away, let's talk about the presentation. The Darkness 2 has a completely different art direction compared to the first game. The Darkness had a realistic, grungy, high-contrast look with light and shadows to it. The Darkness 2 has gone for a more comic book-inspired look with the environments and characters. There are moments where the game does try to replicate the stencil shadow look of the first, but as a whole it's very different. Personally, I'm not bothered by it. The game is based on a comic, and this entry takes a lot more of the wacky supernatural elements from it, so it makes sense. It will also help the game in time, since stylized artistic direction tends to age better than photorealism. It can take some getting used to, since it's such a heavy shift, but otherwise I think it suits the game very well. There's more saturation and color while still keeping a dark aesthetic. Another thing that has changed is the voice actors. Jackie is now voiced by Brian Bloom, replacing Kirk Acevedo. Bloom is really great as Jackie. He manages to capture all aspects of his personality very well, whether it be his sarcasm, his fear of the darkness, his anger, or his love for Jenny. There's a great range with his performance, and it makes for a very engaging protagonist.
Once the darkness gets a hold of you, you start to lose control. You start to wonder what the fuck you're doing. Time slips away from you, and then, all of a sudden, it's like you're sitting in a theater, watching a movie of your own life, and you're up there on the big screen, big as life. You're a fucking movie star, and you're killing all the bad guys, tearing them limb from limb, and you feel good, you look good. Fuck, you are good. And then you realize something. Everyone else in the theater, they're screaming, 'cause they're watching a horror movie. And you're not the hero. You're the monster.
Jenny is now voiced by Stephanie E. Frame, replacing Lauren Ambrose. It's funny because I actually didn't notice this at first. Frame sounds close enough to Ambrose that it didn't register for me right away.
You want the remote, don't you, mister? No, my apartment, my TV, my remote. Hi, Ratface. What took you so long?
Jenny?
Were you expecting some other girlfriend? Come sit with me for a minute. I'd give you a free beer, but you're not even legal until tomorrow.
Anyway, I think she does a pretty good job as Jenny. She actually gets more screen time in this game despite being dead, so you get more scenes between her and Jackie, and it's very sweet. Interestingly, some of the voice cast in this game are also in Mafia 2. Brian Bloom, for example, voices the debt collector at the beginning of that game, but The Darkness 2 also features Rick Pasqualone, who voiced Vito Scaletta, the protagonist of Mafia 2. He voices Vinny in The Darkness too.
Jackie, it's good to see you. Come on in.
Hiya, Vinny. How's the family?
Which one?
Frank Ashmore, who voiced Leo, is the voice of Jimmy the Grape.
A waiter recognized one of the guys who came in at the restaurant tonight. Some guy named Swifty.
There's also other minor roles sharing actors. I think it's funny because both games are released less than 2 years from each other, both are about an Italian crime family in New York, and both share actors. And both games have the same publisher too. The only voice actor that wasn't replaced was Mike Patton as The Darkness.
Embrace the darkness, Jackie.
My friend!
What the hell is that?
He returns to voice this demonic entity, but the voice direction is noticeably different. Instead of a creepy voice speaking to Jackie,
Human misery. Suffer. Disease of the mind and heart. Festers here. It's a good place to die.
he now screams in anger.
Yes! Take the siphon. Give me its power!
Some people dislike this change in direction, but I think it makes sense story-wise. This game takes place 2 years after the first, and Jackie has spent that entire time suppressing the darkness. So the entity is fed up with him, and its bloodlust is higher than ever. That being said, I do miss the way his voice was mixed in the first game. It no longer sounds like an entity talking inside your head. Now it sounds like something on your shoulders talking to you, which is appropriate but less atmospheric. The problem I have is even though the voice performances are solid, it's jarring and inconsistent to have them change between games. Maybe there were circumstances preventing them from returning, but even so, it's something you have to get used to at first. Anyway, let's move on. So as said, the game takes place 2 years after the original, making Jackie 23 during the events of the game. In those 2 years, he's become the Don of the Franchetti crime family, succeeding poorly after he was killed. During that time, Jackie has found ways to suppress the demon inside him. However, at the start of the game, a hit on his life leaves him near death, and his only chance of survival is to reawaken the darkness. During this ordeal, Jackie experiences visions of Jenny and being trapped in a mental institution. This isn't really explained at first, so I'll come back to it. It's revealed that the men who put the hit out on Jackie are named the Brotherhood, who seek an object named the Siphon to steal the powers of the darkness from Jackie and use it for themselves. Which also explains why they didn't just flat out kill him when they had the chance, because if they did, they wouldn't be able to obtain the darkness. It's a similar setup to the first game, where a murder is attempted on Jackie, which awakens the darkness, and he spends the game hunting them down. Though in this instance it's more about supernatural entities than crime family business. Jackie is still struggling with the death of Jenny and thinks about her all the time, wondering if it's really worth going on without her, and the game is pretty brutal with how abrupt Jenny's departure from his life is.
Jenny?
Damn it. It deceives you.
Jackie goes through a junkyard and finds the man who was in charge of the assassination, who points him to a brothel to find out more about the Brotherhood. Meanwhile, he has the team from the co-op mode retrieve Johnny Powell, an expert on the supernatural and the darkness, who helped Jackie suppress it. You can also find some collectibles throughout the game, and Johnny will comment on them.
See, the true revelation is actually the revelation of John, the Bible's explosive blockbustering finale. There are 3 schools of thought about the revelation. The first believes it is a literal prophecy. This is retarded. The second believes it's a metaphor for Roman persecution. Plausible, but boring. The third believes it is a code that, once deciphered, will reveal the true revelation. People who believe this tend to be insane, but also extremely fun at parties.
Throughout this level, you can see how badly the women here are treated by the clients, making it more satisfying to kill these guys afterwards. Jackie does manage to come into contact with the Brotherhood, but is captured. Victor, the head of the Brotherhood, is trying to torture Jackie into giving up the darkness, as the powers of the darkness can't be forcibly taken from someone. They have to be given up from choice, and he knows he cannot kill Jackie as the darkness won't allow it, so instead he's going to make his life a living hell. It's then revealed that the Brotherhood has taken over his home and are killing everyone inside, so Jackie needs to break free and get back. The darkness then reveals to Jackie that it's actually been holding Jenny's soul hostage this whole time.
You will do my bidding.
Give me one good reason.
Her soul is mine. You will do my bidding!
It does this in an attempt to convince Jackie not to give up the darkness. I also like that Jackie and the darkness have actual conversations with each other in this game. It really sells the idea that Jackie needs the darkness to accomplish his mission, but he doesn't want anything to do with it. After returning to his home and fighting the Brotherhood, they manage to corner Jackie and kill Aunt Sarah, and then blow his head off with a shotgun. Jackie then reawakens in the mental hospital, and this section of the game is both really funny and interesting. So all of the characters from the game appear here as either patients or staff at the institution. Jackie is here because he's gone crazy and has imagined this whole story of the darkness. You can even find issues of the comic in his cell. The characters really try to convince Jackie that the story in the game is simply an exaggerated work of fiction based on his experiences in the real world, and that the doctors are trying to help him. Jenny never actually died, and Jackie has been having bad dreams. Whilst here, I would like to talk about how good the comedy in this game is. It's downright hilarious at times. This game's style of comedy is doing or saying something silly, but then playing it straight and taking it at face value.
Yes, yes.
Is it morning already?
Alpha, what the fuck's going on here?
What I really want to do is paint.
Well, not you too.
Mental note to self. Never again open up a war on two impossible fronts. And never again go within 150 miles of Moscow during the winter. Oh, and remember to buy cyanide capsules at the store.
Bummer. Come on! Tell me something. Anything.
We're working on a plan to escape this place disguised as a Band-Aid. Yeah, but we're not sure if we can pull it off.
Thanks for nothing. Tony, please, tell me you know what the fuck is going on here.
Lima beans are spies.
Fuck me.
Hey, Jackie, check out the rack on the brunette to your right. No, your other right.
That's his left, dipshit.
Okay, so Lone Ranger gets captured by some fucking assholes, right?
Indians.
No, bad guys, thieves, assholes, come on.
Criminals.
Sure, okay, so Lone Ranger gets captured by a bunch of fucking criminals. When those bad guys' backs are turned, Lone Ranger sees, up on the hill across the valley, his best buddy Tano.
Yeah, the Indian.
No, the Native American.
All right, Native American.
Okay, so the Lone Ranger can't escape. He's surrounded by all these assholes, right? But when nobody's looking, he snags a blanket and gets his ass over to the campfire.
Where did he get a blanket?
Hey, what do you fucking care?
I bet it was a saddle blanket.
Fine, genius. A saddle blanket. Okay, Lone Ranger grabs a fucking saddle blanket and starts fanning over the fire.
Hey, sending smoke signals to the Native American, right?
Fucking A right. He's sending a smoke signal. Tano sees the signal, nods, and tears his ass out of there. Now, when Tano comes back, he's got this beautiful blonde with big ass titties with him, right?
Yeah?
Lone Ranger sees the blonde and shakes his head no. So the Lone Ranger fans the fire, sending Tano the smoke signal again. Tano sees it, nods, then races off. This time, he comes back with a hot, long-legged brunette bitch, right?
Right.
Lone Ranger sees this chick, shakes his head again. No. Fans the flame, sends the same smoke signal a third time. Off Tano goes. This time, he brings back a smoking redhead, right? Lone Ranger finally drops the blanket, just yells across the valley at the top of his fucking lungs. I said posse, you asshole!
Ah, shit.
Right?
It's part of what makes the game so engaging. He then wakes up in his home to find that days have passed, but his body has fully healed thanks to the darkness. It's then revealed that Aunt Sarah's funeral is today, so Jackie and the rest of the family head to the cemetery to pay their respects, but the funeral is interrupted by the Brotherhood and Jackie fights them off. There's a boss fight with Bragg and Jackie interrogates him for the location of the Brotherhood. This is the last time you visit the penthouse, and whilst here, Johnny explains what the Angelus is.
Tell me more about this Angelus thing.
You mean besides the fact that it wants to kill you?
A little more than that would be helpful.
All right, here goes. Everything the darkness is, the Angelus isn't. The darkness is, well, dark. The Angelus is light. Darkness wants chaos. Angelus wants order. Darkness needs a male host. Angelus needs a female. Guess that kind of explains why they've been fighting for, well, forever, I guess.
Female?
Yeah, you know, boobs, pocketbooks, shoes, female. I gotta draw you a picture?
You saying one day this broad's gonna show up wanting to kill me?
Yep, yep. Makes you feel any better. You're not the first guy to be in this situation. And you definitely won't be the last.
Terrific.
Whilst here, you can also say goodbyes to everyone since this is the last time you'll see them. Jackie arrives at the abandoned carnival, and in addition to some of the best shootouts in the game, We also get some flashbacks to Jackie and Jenny experiencing some quality time together, with them trying to win a prize from the shooting games.
You did it! Oh my god! I can't believe it! You are so awesome!
Big winner! Big winner! Way to go, kid! Step right up to claim the big prize!
Hey, Ratface. Remember that secret I was gonna tell you? I love you, Jackie Estacado.
I love these scenes because you really see how much of a sweetheart Jenny is and why she's important to Jackie. It also gives you a taste of the life Jackie truly wants, and the game is brutal when it snaps you back to reality. It's funny how this game series is an over-the-top first-person shooter based on edgy comics from the 90s, and it still manages to have a better written romance than most video games. Jackie finds this Iron Maiden and decides to open it for some reason, before Victor then takes Jackie by surprise and traps him in it. I don't know why they had Jackie open it. Jackie then has this section in the hospital where Jenny is scared of him after their last encounter. Out of ideas, he's told by Adolf to head to the janitor's closet, where it's revealed that this old hunched-over man was actually the Darkling in disguise, and it's helping Jackie escape. He's currently being tortured by the Brotherhood to give up his powers, so you take control of the Darkling and stealth kill the enemies. This section sucks. It's very basic and the pacing kills the game. The Darkling manages to free Jackie, but his powers have been drained by the Siphon, meaning he has to do without them for now. He finds out that they're under his family's old house and finds his father's office. Victor uses the Siphon to give one of his men the darkness powers, and Jackie has to fight him to get them back. However, there's a catch.
I feel empty inside. I can feel it fading.
The bucktooth hobo's still got the darkness trapped inside the siphon. What you got there is darkness powers, all right, but you don't got no darkness inside you to power 'em.
The final level of the game is spent fighting through Jackie's old house before confronting Victor in the attic and taking part in a very lame boss fight, if I'm honest. You just shoot him as he switches positions. After defeating Victor, Jackie takes the siphon and uses it on himself to send him back to the asylum so he can retrieve Jenny's soul. The Darkling helps Jackie break free, but he gets too excited and opens the door to the roof, making the sunlight kill him. Jackie then reaches the roof as Jenny and the other doctors tell him not to jump. The game then gives you a choice which leads to two different endings. If you stay with Jenny, the game shows a final cutscene with Jackie and Jenny dancing in the asylum to I Only Have Eyes for You by the Flamingos. The credits then roll. If you reject the asylum, Jackie ends up in hell and battles his way to Jenny to free her whilst the darkness tries to stop him. Jackie ends up freeing her and they embrace one another as the credits roll. But infamously, that's not how the game ends.
I love you, Jackie Estacado. No matter what happens, I always will. I'm so sorry.
Sorry? Jenny, I'm the one who should be... Jenny?
We are the Angelus. The world has gone too long without my light. Oh, yes. It's been so long.
Where's Jenny?
Don't worry. She's still in here. And after all you put her through, she still loves you. But she knows what must be done.
Give her back to me.
Don't you understand, Jackie? Jenny's soul wasn't the only thing trapped here. It was you who gave her to me.
I won't fight you.
What makes you think I'm even going to give you the chance? You have become too powerful a host. Caused too much suffering. You and it are now where you belong.
No.
So yeah, the game ends on a major cliffhanger. This leaves a bad taste in my mouth, especially after experiencing a game and a story that was on all fronts pretty solid. The characters have engaging personalities with solid voice acting, the writing has a good mix of comedy but is able to be mature when required, and the wacky supernatural elements make the constant shifts throughout the narrative refreshing. It's a solid game with solid writing all around. But then to have it just end abruptly with no conclusion, it's Halo 2 all over again. Except Halo 2 actually got a sequel. One of my biggest disappointments with The Darkness 2 is the soundtrack. The first game, composed by Gustav Grefberg, is very awesome and very memorable, with heavy guitar riffs for the action, quiet and somber tracks for Jackie and Jenny, and ominous and mysterious tracks for exploration. The Darkness 2's music is fine, I guess, but none of the music stands out much during any of the gameplay or cutscenes. It's mostly just background noise. Honestly, the most memorable tracks are the licensed ones. Otherwise, the soundtrack is just sort of there. When asked about The Darkness 3, Sheldon Carter said, "A few of us at Digital Extremes started a pitch on a document for The Darkness 3, and we even got a very small prototype started, but unfortunately it never moved forward. I would like to imagine a parallel universe where it was the biggest game ever made." He then went on to say, "I think The Darkness 2 stands up very well as a story itself, and its examination of the themes that people can still read in the comics is great. There are loads of Jackie Estacado stories out there if you're jonesing for them." Thankfully, Digital Extremes have done very well for themselves with Warframe, which launched in March 2013, just a year after The Darkness 2, and has been a very successful live service game with a dedicated fanbase for over a decade now. As for The Darkness 3, I think the chances of it ever happening are non-existent. It's a shame because both games are very unique and fun games with engaging narratives, but I don't think either of them reach their full potential. Both Starbreeze and Digital Extremes had way more ideas they wanted to fulfill, but had to scale back their ambitions to get the games done. There's still room left to expand on gameplay ideas, and I think The Darkness 3 could serve to make an awesome trilogy of first-person shooters. Until then, we only have the first two games. Games which are flawed and are certainly lacking some aspects, but have enough passion and unique qualities within them to make for some of the most engaging single-player campaigns in the genre. Also, why does this game have to deafen me every single time I open it?